All right, well, welcome everyone to today's Process Mining Academy session. The Xanadu release is now generally available, and new releases are always pretty exciting for us here at ServiceNow. Today, what we'll be doing is a high-level overview of all the new enhancements for process mining, and then in future sessions, we'll dive deeper into specific areas. There's a couple areas that probably require a session to themselves, so we'll do that. So for the newcomers, the purpose of this session are just to help us all get better educated on ServiceNow's in-platform process mining capabilities. We'll use these sessions to provide how-tos, practical guidance, use cases, and like today, we typically do product updates whenever we have a new release coming out. And as a group, we just exchange ideas, collaborate, so we all continue to get better. How the sessions will work? Well, we have a scheduled topic that we usually cover for the first 30 minutes, although I very often go over that as much as I try not to. And then we'll open it up for questions on the chosen topic for that session, then questions above and beyond the day's topic, sort of like an office hours. These sessions all get recorded and eventually posted on the community site, probably how you, on the page that you found the link to register for this one. I think there's something like 27 recorded sessions out there now. And then finally, do me a favor and just post your questions in the Q&A as we go along. I think I'm running solo here today. My teammates are both out, so I'll get to the questions at the end. But as you think of them during the session, please post them in the Q&A, and I'll do my best to answer them. For the ones that I might not know the answers to, I'll use them as a topic for a future session, or we'll post the answer on the community site itself. You're all familiar with this slide. This is the slide that says, hey, anything I say and do here today can't be held against me in the court of law. It's also the slide that says, as part of these conversations, if we make any forward-looking statements about things that might be coming in future releases, you should take them as such. Make no decisions based on them whatsoever, because they're always subject to change. I'm assuming you've all read the fine print. So for those that I've not met before, my name is Dan Grady. I'm part of the process mining product management team. I have two teammates on that team, Rosman Parpia and Damien Pascal. I don't believe either of them are with us here today. I think they had prior engagements. But they'll be hosting future sessions. You've already kind of seen them if you've been to past sessions. They've covered other topics for us. What we'll do in the session, well, we'll do a quick little process mining 101. That's for the folks that might be new to process mining in general and have stumbled upon us for the first time. And then we'll dive into the what's new for process mining in the Xanadu release content. We'll run through the new enhancements and slides first, then we'll jump into a few instances and look at some of the capabilities live. We'll get your questions answered. Like I said, put them in the Q&A throughout the session as you think of them, and I'll get to them eventually. And then we'll finally wrap up with some additional resources above and beyond today. Now, as always, we start with the quick process mining 101. So with everything we do, there's a designed and desired path in our minds for how it should work or how things should play out, whether that be planning an academy session like this or a business process. And when you design things, you design for both efficiency as well as completeness to provide the best experience possible for as many people as possible. Now, unfortunately, what we design isn't always what ends up happening in reality. The reality is that not all the work is going to be flowing through the optimal path, and that's going to have a negative impact on both the people that are trying to request a service as well as the people trying to deliver that service. Now, identifying what's actually happening within our business processes and then improving them isn't always easy and obvious. And what process mining allows us to do is use the audit log data that gets generated as records move through a given workflow. And we use that data to create a visual representation of the reality of what's actually happening. And this new level of visibility is going to help us accelerate our ability to identify inefficiencies, non-conformant process activities, and just ultimately improvement opportunities for that process. Process mining gives us the ability to answer process questions that have historically been pretty hard for us to get the answers to. So where the traditional analytics that you might be familiar with will allow us to answer a lot of the what questions about our processes, process mining helps us answer the whys. So things like, where is the process getting stuck? Where is there any sort of unnecessary rework happening? Where are tickets, incidents, cases, ping-ponging between different groups or teams? Where aren't we conforming to what we've designed? These are all things that haven't always been really easy for us to ask and answer, but now you can in just a couple of clicks with process mining. We like to say that process mining is going to get us to the why behind all those KPIs that you have on their dashboards. And in doing so, just empower us all to everyone involved in the process to make better data-driven decisions about which improvements to make, which ones to prioritize over others, and where we're going to get the most impact from those improvements. All right, quick 101 is done. On to the Xanadu and all the newness that it provides for us. So you may or may not know this. Process mining was initially released in Quebec, and we've made rapid and significant enhancements to the solution over the last several releases. And of course, Xanadu is no different. One of the things that I think of as I look at this slide, I'm going to have to adjust this or find a new layout because we're not going to be able to fit Yokohama on this slide. And from an overarching product perspective, we are always focused on accelerating our customers' time to value, empowering everyone with process mining insights, and providing end-to-end process visibility. And the enhancements in the Xanadu release align to those themes. We have a brand new guided setup experience for improvement opportunities to help customers take advantage of this powerful, but I like to think underutilized part of the solution. We have some new templates for SLA and approval analysis to streamline the project creation time for these common scenarios. We've made improvements to the process mining dashboard widget that can be added to platform analytics dashboards to extend the reach of process mining insights. We're introducing the concept of views to improve governance and reduce the number of projects needed in an organization. One of the crown jewels of the release is the addition of clustering for Worknotes to help surface more actionable insights. We've also decided to make an evaluation process mining project available on all instances to generate more awareness and give people in your organizations a taste of the power that process mining could provide. Now, all of these, their aim is to broaden the accessibility of process mining insights, enabling everyone in the organization to make more informed process improvement decisions at a much faster pace, which is necessary in the competitive environments that most of us work in. So there's plenty to be excited about. So let's just dive into them. So the first major enhancement to focus on is the introduction of a guided setup experience for improvement opportunities. We're always focused on kind of accelerating how quickly you can get to the value with process mining. And one of the key aspects of the solution that supports this mission is the rule-based and automated improvement opportunities that surface things like bottlenecks, rework, non-conformance scenarios. And while we provide several improvement opportunities as part of the workflow-specific content packs for things like ITSM, CSM, HR, field service management, customers can create their own improvement opportunities to align with your own use cases within your organizations. What we've done in Xanadu is we've added a guided setup experience to help lower the barrier of entry and streamline the time it takes to add improvement opportunities to a process mining project for things like ping pong, extra step, extreme durations or repetitions. Slow transitions is one of my favorite ones. So really powerful piece of the solution. We've now just made it even easier for you to get started with it if you haven't used it before. In addition to the guided setup experience for improvement opportunities, we've also added 2 use case templates for 2 very common types of analysis that customers use process mining for: approval bottlenecks and SLA breach analysis. Now, both of these use cases are best analyzed by creating multi-dimensional maps. And if you're not familiar with multi-dimensional maps, there's a couple of academies that focus on those. But these are the maps that allow you to put multiple tables on a single screen to get that end-to-end visibility. So the new toggles in the project guided setup experience, they immediately create that connection between your parent table, like incident or requested item, and the associated child table for the use case. The template also adds some default activities and breakdowns to help you get started. It's definitely a time saver. And as we'll do when we look in the demo, it's also good to kind of just validate that what it created is actually what you want to be looking for. So that one click, just this one little slide of the toggle, is going to add so much additional visibility. You'll be able to quickly identify exactly when in the process the SLA breaches are occurring, so you can make the necessary process adjustments, or where you have situations where things are just sitting there waiting to be approved for extremely long periods of time, which happens very often. And next, in the Xanadu release, we're also introducing the concept of views. Not the show, I think that's on ABC, but what views allow us to consolidate multiple activity definitions like state, assignment group, priority into a single map. And then they allow us to toggle different views of that map on and off. So What views are going to help us do, they're going to help us in a couple of different ways. First, views will accelerate our time to improvement by allowing us to surface more of those improvement opportunities and process insights from a single project. If you think about it, those improvement opportunities are based on the activities you included in the project. The more activities you have in the project, more improvement opportunities you're going to be able to surface. And then this in turn, like, since we can turn these things on and off, it's not going to clutter the map anymore. You have the ability to simplify the map, but get the benefit of those improvement opportunities. And the flip side of this is now it's going to reduce the number of projects needed per process. And that's going to help us better govern and scale process mining in organizations, right? We can create a single project to support so many more insights that we can maybe embed in dashboards down the line for a series of stakeholders. Pretty powerful. Again, handy as for somebody like me who, as I start adding more activities to a map, I start to get a little lost. It's nice now to be able to turn these things on and off to make it a little bit more consumable, but again, continue to get the power. So speaking of scaling process mining in an organization, one of the primary ways to raise awareness of any analytics solution is to put the insights directly in the flow of stakeholders' lives. So since the Vancouver release, ServiceNow customers have had the ability to embed process mining powered process maps as visualizations on their dashboards to expose different stakeholders like process owners or service desk owners to the opportunities they have to improve. In each release, we've enhanced this process map. So in Xanadu, we added a big piece, the ability to drill down to the detailed records behind an inefficient transition on a process map. And for some, this might seem like a small enhancement, but to me, it's a critical one. Like, process mining is great at helping us identify areas of opportunity, but to understand the corrective actions we could take, that's going to involve digging in and understanding what people on the front lines are doing in these inefficient scenarios. That information lives in the records themselves. And as many of you heard me say before, that is one of the biggest benefits to using an in-platform process mining solution, the direct access to this level of detail to take your analysis to an actionable level. It's huge. So this ability to get down to the records now from the process map just adds that additional level of depth that somebody that might not be using the process mining workspace can now take advantage of and dig in on their own a little bit more and have, like I say, a conversation with the data. And that brings us to what might be the most impactful enhancement in the Xanadu release for process mining. Maybe not the easiest to demo because of how hard it is to get demo data for this, but it is definitely, in my opinion, one of the most impactful enhancements, Worknotes analysis. So since much of the actionable information comes from the details of what people are on the front lines are doing, how can we make it easier to surface those insights? Well, we could apply the ServiceNow platform's machine learning-based clustering capability to those unstructured work notes and comments to help us identify common patterns on the inefficient transitions. So rather than drilling into hundreds of individual records, the solution will package up records with common themes in the work notes around the inefficient transition. This is going to significantly streamline our ability to identify the actionable next steps. This is huge. For those of you that have been using process mining and have been digging into the records, this is really going to speed things up for you, start to surface opportunities a lot faster than in the past. All right, variation analysis. So those of you that have worked closely with us, you know that we're constantly looking for your feedback, and we're constantly getting feedback from our customers and using that feedback to improve. And when we revamped the Summary and Insights tab a few releases ago, we removed the variation analysis component that gives insights into all the different routes work is taking to get to closure. The route most commonly taken, the routes with the longest average duration, the routes with the most steps, the most non-conformant ones. The variation analysis, it's still available and has been available in the Analyst Workbench tab, but customers really gravitated to the view and what we had on the Summary and Insights page. So based on popular demand, we've brought it back, and you now have this variation analysis tab again on the Summary and Insights page. And then the last enhancement to be aware of is the introduction of an evaluation process mining project on all instances. So our experience has been that once someone sees process mining in action, they immediately see the value. But even though the concept of process mining has been around for over 20 years at this point, there's still so many who don't even know that process mining is a thing. So we've decided to activate process mining on all instances, along with an evaluation project for incidents. So as a customer, if you go to the process mining workspace, or you drill into a performance analytics incident KPI, you're going to be able to mine the project for the last 7 days of closed incidents up to 3,600 records. And while the mining takes place, you get presented with a nice little short little demo video of what process mining is and some links to the content like this Academy series or the FAQ. It's really just about exposing more people to this. It's not like and added in a limited way, right? You can just do it for incident for the last 7 days up to 3,600 records. Just a way to get people interested in it, or what makes probably more aware and interested right away. There's some additional enhancements that round out the release. So like prior to Xanadu, you can include specific activity definition values. In Xanadu, you can now do the reverse as well and exclude certain values. So for certain use cases, there's certain things you want to show on the map or don't want to show on the map. That gives you the flexibility. A big one of those for who have spent time creating projects with the guided setup. Prior to Xanadu, you had the ability, you had to individually choose your breakdown values, somewhat time consuming when you can add 10 breakdowns per project. Now you can do a multi-select, which is going to speed things up for most of us. We've also added a toggle so you can show full no names on the analyst map. So it doesn't really come into play when you're using state as an activity, but if you've got assignment groups with longer assignment group names, they were getting truncated. So now you can show the entire name of the assignment group. And lastly, we've added a toggle for the arcs on the multi-dimensional maps that just help with readability a little bit. So Xanadu, pretty packed release, as you can see. We're already looking forward to what's coming in Yokohama. So and beyond. Let's jump into the instance and take a look at some of these things live. I'll come over here, assuming I'll still log in. And we'll go through and create a simple project together real fast, just to look at some of the things that we've done from a project creation perspective, like those templates that we've added for SLA and approvals. So we'll come here, we'll click create project. The guided setup experience will come up if you've not seen this before, right? This is something we released in Washington, the guided setup experience for project creation. As customers start to push process mining out to more people in the organization, what we learned is that not everyone loves traditional ServiceNow list and forms or is familiar with them. So a more guided experience was necessary. So we'll just call this Xanadu Academy project. We'll give it a name. We'll pick our table. As always, we'll pick incident because that's where my demo data lives. And I don't want to auto retire this. One of the things you'll notice here on the right-hand side is these helpful links. We've cleaned this up a little bit from the Washington release to the Xanadu release, make it a little bit more consumable for folks. And then we'll just hit create project. And the first thing that we're going to do inside of this wizard, we'll go through and we'll scope our analysis. So we'll add our filter conditions. I don't have a specific use case here, so I'm just going to set this to active as false. So I'm only looking at the closed work in my activity or in my project, and we'll hit save. I'll add an activity. We'll come here, we'll say new activity. We'll add state as our activity. Great. And this is where you find that new feature of excluding or enhancement of excluding. So I could say, hey, for the state, you know what? Do I want to include certain values, exclude certain values? Maybe I want to exclude the state value of, I don't know, awaiting change. I don't want to see that. And maybe I don't want to see awaiting equipment on the map as well. So instead of just including specific values, we now can exclude certain values as well. And we'll hit save. So that's one of the new enhancements there. We'll add a breakdown because that's what we do. And just so you can see, when I say breakdown now, for those of you that have been using it in Washington, when you could only pick one, guess what? Now I can pick multiple here in this one piece. Seems like a little thing, but it is a huge time saver. The other thing that folks have talked about or seen, we initially removed reassignment count because it is an integer field as a breakdown option, but it is very powerful to have from a use case perspective. So we've added reassignment count back in as a breakdown option here. We'll just use those 3 for now. We'll hit save. We've got our 3 breakdowns. Great. And now we'll go to our use cases. And you'll notice here I've got my 2 toggles. I'm just going to do the include SLA breach one here, but watch what happens when I toggle this over. It adds the related table for me. and it sets up some pre-configured filter conditions for me, right? So now it's looking at the task SLA table with the source and reference child relationship set up already, the source table set up already. I've got some filters there. Again, I recommend while you toggle this on, like go and just validate what is turned on for you. If you've done any sort of config customization of your instance, maybe you want to check your activities and your breakdowns to make sure that they align to fields that you have on your instance, or adjust them to match your use case a little bit better. But just that one click, it gave us all this additional benefit. Huge advantage. All right. One thing I just want to point out here while I'm in here doing this, this is a capability that we added a few releases back, but I don't know that many people remember that we did and take advantage of it. When you have a multi-dimensional map like this and you've added a child table, you have the ability to add a node on the parent table to show you where the linking is happening. So I want to just show a child when we're attaching or linking out to that task SLA, I want to put a specific node instead of just an arc on the map, right? And we'll just say task SLA breached and save it. So just a feature that's there that not a lot of people knew about. This gave me an opportunity to bring it up again as a certain type of activity. Just add a single node whenever we see the SLA breach, and you have one place on your parent map. We'll hit save for that. And we'll move along to our improvement opportunities. And this is another big enhancement, right? We'll look at the guided setup experience for improvement opportunities. First thing to be aware of is we do provide you out of the box improvement opportunities as part of those content packs. If you're doing process mining for ITSM, CSM, HR, be sure that you've activated the content packs for process mining. I'm just going to suck some of the rule-based ones in and hit apply. One of the things you notice, this always kind of catches me off guard. When you add improvement opportunities from a library, you're going to get something that tells you, hey, a green box that tells you you've onboarded 5 rule-based findings, which is nice. Green is good, right? And then you get this red box, which might seem a little bit alarming, but what it's doing is it's just telling me that, hey, I didn't add improvement opportunities that didn't align to the activities that you've chosen. So while the red might be a little alarming, it's not really an error. It's just kind of like a warning that, hey, there were some things that I didn't add because it didn't map and they weren't going to show anyway. So it's more of a notification. Maybe we should make it blue and not red. Okay, now that we've done that, maybe we want to add some of our own, create our own improvement opportunities. So we'll click this new button. And this is where we get to the new experience. For those that are not familiar with improvement opportunities, there's the ability to kind of create your own improvement opportunities to align to a specific scenario, like, hey, I only want to look for incidents that are taking less than 2 hours to go from new to in progress, right? And you can create that very specific rule with a rule-based improvement opportunity and flag all the incidents in that case that happens. But then we have these automated detectors for things like ping pong, things that are going A, B in the process, or extra steps, where there's one additional step from a variant perspective, or slow transitions. So we've now created this easy way to simply add those. Let's go create one for an extra step detector. So we'll click new, we'll give it a name, we'll say state extra step. The pattern type is going to be extra step. Where do we want to apply this? Well, that you can only apply these to fields that you've set as activities. So we've chosen state as an activity for this project. We'll categorize this as a maybe non-conformant or conformance check. And then we link it to an impacted KPIs. And if you're not familiar, these kind of categories and the impacted KPIs, they're the things that help us power the widget on that summary and insights page. So now we've got this, we'll configure it. There's some parameters for each of these. This is an area we'll probably do a deep dive in to kind of go through each of these individual parameters, but we've kind of laid them out in a nice English-like way to help people understand what they're setting and what these things would do. And then we'll hit save and exit. So now we've got just a very simple way to create that automated finding for extra step. A couple of clicks, it's going to surface a whole bunch of improvement opportunities for the situations where we didn't even know we were looking for things like that. Then you also have the ability to create a more rule-based one. So we'll come in here, I'm going to click create. We did adjust this screen a little bit, making it easier. In the past, creating a rule-based improvement opportunity, or those that have been around a little while might remember it as a finding definition. It wasn't the easiest thing to navigate from a UI perspective. This is 1,000 times easier. So maybe we want to look for things that are taking longer than 2 minutes, but less than an hour to close, right, or to resolve. I would like to use this. These are typically, to me, a feeding ground for automation opportunities, because if it's something we're solving in less than 2 minutes is probably already automated. But if it takes us longer than 2 minutes, but less than an hour, it's probably really easy. Maybe we can start to provide self-service options for these things. I'll just call it automation. I don't want to give it a KPI for this point. We'll just hit configure. And then what I'll say is, hey, come in here, find me all the work that is going from in progress, the first occurrence of in progress, directly or eventually followed by, I'll say, let's say the resolved state. State is resolved. And the first occurrence of that. And then I'll add some constraints and say, you know what? Longer than 2, less than 1. And we'll start with the first step and with the second step. And then I want it to be longer than 2 minutes and less than 1 hour. So a little bit cleaner layout than we had before, a little bit easier to set these up. We'll add that constraint and we'll save and exit. So this is going to go, and now I'll have a rule-based finding that anytime an incident takes longer than 2 minutes and less than an hour to go from in progress to resolved, I want to flag those and surface it on the dashboard. So that's the new guided setup experience, way easier than in the past. Should simplify things for you when you're creating them, and I'll get more of you to start taking advantage of these very powerful part of the solution. And at this point, I can be done. I can hit mine, and it will go out and mine the project. So those are some of the enhancements that kind of fall into the creation of a part of a process mining project. This, as most of you will know, will take a couple of seconds, maybe a couple of minutes, depending on kind of the volume and our place. So we'll let that run, and as that runs, we'll just take to look at some of the other enhancements, and then we'll come back to that. So one of the enhancements I talked about is kind of the ability to embed process mining maps in dashboards, but now we've enhanced it. That was available since Vancouver, right? To be able to add this map as a widget on a dashboard. What we've enhanced in Xanadu is the ability to get to the records themselves. You'll also notice that while this is a vertically laid out process map, there's this horizontal view. That's another little enhancement that came in. Xanadu is the way to just how you lay the map out on the dashboard. Maybe I want to drill into this awaiting caller info state here, look at this, and maybe I want to start looking at the incoming and the outgoing work, and all the work coming into awaiting caller info, all the work that's being shipped out of awaiting caller info. And now what I'll see here is, whoa, I got these 10 that on average are taking 6 days, and they're going from awaiting caller info back into the new state. That does not seem normal. Maybe I want to take a look at those. So right from here, I could drill down and get to the records and just get to those 6. All right, that next step, right? I always like to say analytics and process mining, it's a conversation you're having with your data. You see something, you want to ask it a follow-up question. Based on the answer to that question, you ask it another question. This just allows us to continue to have that conversation with the data when we start to see opportunities. So that's an enhancement here. The other one that we talked about that I can get to, I'll show you in this instance, is that experience now where we've got a sample or evaluation project available on all instances for incident, very limited scope. So what you'll see is any KPI that's related to incident, if you drill into it, you'll see this little widget here. It's so small. We're working to make it bigger and more visible for you, but this will allow you to mine the data behind this. If a user were to click this, they're going to be presented with this experience while the data mines. I've already mined the data, but you'll have a little 2-minute explainer video here of what process mining is. You can launch out to a demo of process mining, a longer demo, like a 5-minute demo. And then there's links to our FAQ, the Process Mining Academy, which you've all found, and a use case series. So somebody can dig into some content as it mines. And then lastly, they'll be able to open this up and they'll see their finished project. Now, I am on an instance in which it's licensed, so it's going to mine more than the 7 days and the 3,600 records. But for the instances in which process mining is not already entitled for that customer, they're going to see a limited version of the results. Okay, that's that one. Going down the list. Yes, let's jump over to, oh, this one finished. So we'll just go back in and we'll look at what it created for us while we were doing that. All right, so we mined our project. Just to kind of show you a couple of things. I think the most important thing that I wanted to show you here is here's our improvement opportunities that got generated based on that extra step detector that we called out. I think here's a rule-based one. There was 161 of those incidents that took longer than 2 minutes, but less than 1 hour to resolve. So it flagged those for me. So really simple and easy to create these opportunities, or that you can dig into deeper. If you've not seen these before on any one of these, I have the ability to drill into the visualized process map, generate records, run root cause analysis, run cluster analysis on any one of these scenarios. I'm just going to come over to the map here. Remember, we toggled on that SLA breach additional table. So you can see that here has been added to the project. Let's see if I can expand this out a little bit. As I expand it out, you start to see the different places in which the arcs are reaching into the project. I can also then come over here, and here's some of those other additional toggles. I want to auto fit. I'll show you the auto fit on the assignment group because it looks better there. But if I wanted to start hiding and showing some of those arcs that are extending out, I can start hiding and showing the different arcs to make the map a little bit easier to read. That's an enhancement that was in here as well. I think those are all the ones that I wanted to cover in this project that we built. For the variation analysis, I wanted to use an assignment group project because I find that assignment group shows better for the variation analysis. So we've talked about this before. Variation analysis, something that we had initially on the summary and insights page. We took it back, took it out. Now we've added it back based on popular demand. So here on the summary and insights page, I now can start looking at all the different routes. In this case, we mined 40,000 incidents. They've taken 1,200 different routes to get to closure. We now have this view, so you can start looking at each of those 1,200 different routes. Maybe you want to look at the one that was most popular or that was most often taken. Maybe you want to look at the longest average duration from a path perspective. Maybe this is my favorite one to do with customers is let's look at the route that took the most steps. Some of you have probably heard me tell this story. We've worked with one customer in which they had at least one ticket that went through 803 different assignment groups before they got to closure. This box was very cluttered and messy, but it just allows you to look at the different routes in there. And then we can start saying things like, hey, let's look at the longest average duration. And I think I have a few here. Actually, go to highlights. And then on any one of these, what we can do is we can say, hey, I see this route here. These 26 took 1 month to get to closure. Let's just jump into the map and look at those 26. And now we're looking at kind of where the work is going. This group gets it, takes a day, passes it to this group. They hang on to it 4 weeks before they get it back to this group. So very powerful capability that you could always get to on the workbench itself, but we wanted to then bring it back to the summary and insights page. All right, that's that. Let's take a look at views. There we go. So what you'll notice on this project here, is that I'm going to start to get different layers of the map. Initially, the map is going to have a ton of stuff on it, right? Because in this scenario, we included state, assignment group, and priority all on one single map. So if I were to start to expand this out, it's going to get pretty messy, really messy here. But I can start doing things like saying, you know what, I only want to look at the assignment group view here and narrow it down to just the assignment group view of the map and start looking at these. Or maybe I want to narrow it down to just the priority view of it and look at how these incidents are moving from priority to priority. And then as I'm doing this analysis, I can come over here and I can say, hey, let's look at the variation analysis. Look at these 939 that are going from high down to moderate. Maybe I want to focus in on just those in which the priority is changing from high to moderate. Hit apply. And once I narrow it down to these 930 times, now maybe I want to look at which groups is that happening or are involved in the situations where that's happening. And I can take my assignment group view and I can start to focus in on these scenarios. These are the groups in which the priority is changing from high to medium. And then maybe there's some assignment group changes, like what is going on with these 114? Maybe I want to just look at the records there and I can drill into the records of that. So that's what views do. They allow you to kind of swap back and forth between different slices of the data. And in doing so, since I have state, priority, and assignment group now in this project, that's going to allow me to start to create much more improvement or many more improvement opportunities aligning to the state, aligning to activity, aligning to the assignment group activity, and just surface a lot more insights in a single project than you were able to do in the past. So pretty powerful new capability here. Boom, 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 boom. I think I covered everything except for one, which is the crown jewel. And I have that in this instance over here. Now, work notes analysis, I love it. It's going to be super powerful. But generating work notes for demonstration purposes is not the easiest thing to do. So I don't have a lot of demo data here to kind of show you what's going on with work notes analysis. So I'd love to be able to get with you on your instances and start playing around and see what's going on in your instances and the work notes that you have there. That's something that will be way more fun for me than playing with the limited set of data that I have here. So I'm going to come over here to this process mining workspace just so you can see how you would get to it and what it might look like for you. Come on, process mining workspace. And I hope you've been looks like you have been putting your questions in the Q&A. Great. So let's just come over here to this incident management project. I believe this is the one that I've got it set up in. And I can expand this out a little bit. And I believe this is the group. So the way that this will work is you could be on, I think it's going to work great on these assignment group projects where you've got handoffs and transfers, and you want to start looking at the work notes around the transfer. So we've got this group here, ATF test group, transferring these 327 to change management. When I click on this, right, I've got this opportunity to investigate further. I could always show the records. I could do clustering on the short descriptions. I could do root cause analysis. But the new capability is this work notes analysis. Right, and what this will do is the same clustering that we've been doing on the short descriptions is going to do it on the work notes or the comments, depending on how you configure the solution. And I'll show you in a second where you configure the solution. The other thing that's important to point out here is you also have this ability to understand what data was analyzed. So of those records, right, 327 records ran through the work notes analysis. That's 79% that were analyzed. 21% of them were not analyzed because they were deemed too long or too short to be useful in the analysis. So we kind of filter those out. And I'll show you where you have the settings to control these things as well. And now I've got my clusters of the different things that were happening in the work notes. If I see a cluster that's interesting to me, I can always get down to the detailed records themselves. Extremely powerful if you think about kind of looking at what people are actually doing when a transfer is taking place. Now, when we want to configure this, how do we set this up or configure this and kind of choose a few things? Let's come over here to our process configuration. Oh, that made me nervous. I just saw a little thing pop up that says people can now see my screen. I hope people have been able to see my screen the entire time. I'm assuming somebody would have given me a phone call if not. So we'll come over here to our process configuration. For those that are not familiar, for every table you want to mine, you're going to have a process configuration record. We provide for things out of the box tables with those content packs I keep talking about, examples or initial process configuration records. And this is where you'll configure things like your automated root cause analysis, your automation discovery, your clustering. Again, for out of the box tables, these come pre-configured, but you may want to adjust them. This is where you would do it. What you'll see in Xanadu is a new tab for work notes analysis. And this allows you to configure which field you want to include, whether it be work notes or additional comments. Do you want to include both work notes and additional comments? You check this box. If you happen to be using a different field name for some reason, you would configure that here. If you want to exclude additional comments or work notes, you would do that here as well. And then the other two pieces of configuration are the work note time range in seconds. So when a transfer happens, right, or a transition on the map happens in an arc, right, there's going to be work notes that happen around the time that transition happened. How much time do you want to include in the analysis? Do you want to look at things just between the first minute and the minute before and the minute after? that change, let's just use assignment group as an example, the change of the assignment group that we were just looking at, let's include the work notes that happen 60 seconds before, 67 after. Do you want to expand that range of time? You can do that here. And then very often, right, we're populating work notes and comments as part of a workflow, and the thing populating the work notes and comments is a system or just a user that's a system user, right? It's not an actual person. Do you want to include those, exclude those in the analysis? You kind of configure that piece here. So that's the idea, how you would configure it. I believe, and we believe, that this work notes analysis is going to be a huge time saver for folks when you really start digging in and trying to understand what your next steps are going to be or what improvements you want to make. I think I covered all of the stuff on my list in the demo piece that we covered in the slide piece. All right, let's get to those questions. And if you have questions and you have not already put them in the Q&A, now's your time to get them in the Q&A. Perfect. Someone's asking, can you please provide the link to where you find all the prior sessions? You've not attended Academy sessions before. They're on the ServiceNow community site. You can search, actually, if you search ServiceNow Process Mining Academy, it should take you to the page. But you know what we can do? I'll just put that link in the chat right now. ServiceNow Process Mining Academy. And we'll get that there. So this is on the community site. Here's the Academy. Here's all the prior sessions and the links to the recordings for those. I'll just take this and I'll put that in here. I will also put it in the chat for everyone else. Perfect. Oh, good question. Someone's asking a question. Is process mining going to be aligned with business process in the CDSM model, right? Or it can be. It's not like out of the box there today, but it's a very good idea to start doing that. That's something that people often ask about. And if you think about what we've done here at ServiceNow in that realm is on the CIO dashboard. Many of you might be familiar with the CIO dashboard that's available on the ServiceNow store. What that allows you to do is go from the top level CIO type metrics and drill all the way down to a process view. And within that process view dashboard, you will always find the process map for that specific process. Another good question. Can you create improvement opportunity definitions for SPM products like demand? So the answer is yes. One of the things on the process mining workspace, if I just come back to one of these maps, here we go. I'll just come back to the process mining workspace real quick. And what you'll notice on the right-hand side of the screen is you have a link to create a continual improvement management initiative or create an automation center request right from the project itself. Right, so we use continual improvement initiatives to track opportunities to improve. And from those continual improvement initiatives, you have the ability to link and create ideas, demands, projects, changes, tasks. So it's kind of start with improvement initiatives, and then from there you can get to your demands. Okay, yep, sorry about that. Somebody was asking for the link to the Process Mining Academy. I put it in, but I put it in the wrong, or I didn't send it to everyone. I just did host and panelists. There we go. Perfect. All right. Somebody's asking about the work notes analysis, and do we need to configure specific predictive intelligence models for it to work? No, the answer to that is it uses predictive intelligence and the clustering solution underneath the covers, but you don't have to create anything special. We've handled it. The only thing that you need to do is go to that process configuration record that we looked at and adjust any of the out-of-the-box fields if you want to do it, but you do not need to create your own solution definition for it. And it does use predictive intelligence. Does process mining require a license? Yes, there's a number of different ways that you can get entitlement to process mining, but it is Typically an add-on component to your license. I would just recommend that you work with your account teams to figure out what you currently have and what it would take to get process mining added. Perfect. I think we've got to all of the questions. If there's a question that I did not get to, now's your chance to get those questions in the Q&A. Last chance for romance. As you're getting those questions in, I just want to remind everyone of the additional resources that are out there for you. So there is a process mining class on the Now Learning site. It's called Process Mining Essentials, not Process Optimization Essentials, as the slide would suggest. It's about a 90-minute course that you can go through. There's a great white paper that we've written about what we've done here at ServiceNow with process mining and some of our initial findings. There's a community site for process mining. I clearly did not update this slide properly because it still says process optimization there. The Process Mining Academy, we just put that link in the chat. There's also something called the Process Mining Use Case Series, which is 10 of the most common use cases, like that SLA breach analysis example that I just showed. I probably need to go and update that use case series recording now that we have that simple little toggle to turn it on. But this is a great way to get a sense of the types of analysis that you can use process mining to do. And then there's a good live on now session called Getting Started with ServiceNow in-platform process mining. All right, any other questions that we did not get to? I'm going to check the Q&A one more time. I'm just going to check here, see if there's anything in the chat that I missed. Didn't miss anything there. If there's no more additional questions, I'll just quickly remind you that we have these Academy sessions once a month. The next one is going to be hosted by my colleague, Roz. She's going to be looking at how to use process mining to analyze it or include universal requests in your process maps. So those multidimensional maps that we just looked at, they're very good for doing analysis of universal requests and where the universal requests are being routed and shipped to. And then my colleague Damien is going to do a specific session focused on process mining for customer service management in November. We haven't figured out what we want to do yet for December, our last Process Mining Academy session of the year. But if you got ideas, please post them on the community site. Send notes to me. I'm happy to take input and feedback. We want to make sure that these sessions are useful for everyone. So any topics that you'd like to have covered, in addition to the ones that we come up with on our own based on our customer experiences, those are always helpful. One last check at questions. If not, I don't see anything else. Just thank you everyone for your time. Look forward to interacting with you on all the other channels in future sessions, and happy mining, everyone.